from Valerie Pedvin. Your mother tongue, your mother tongue. Let's hear it for Valerie.
Everybody, put your hand in the air if language learning is your superpower. Oh, wow, I envy you four. For the rest of us, we might need a little bit of extra encouragement. And I'm hoping to give it to you today. If you go down into the chat, it would be fabulous if you would type in your first language, i.e. your mother tongue. And as you're doing that, I'm going to kick things off. In the spirit of beginning something new, I invite you to consider a new era of initial language learning. To think of a change of learning styles inaugurating a new era of successful sound mimicry in your new target language. Since language learning is not everyone's superpower, there's about 4 of you I caught with hands up, I'm here to explain why. The rest of us, be us new language learners or failed language learners, can benefit from taking a phonetic approach to supercharge their early language learning in a target language. It allows for each learner to focus on the sounds of a language first, without the distractions of spelling rules or silent letters. They distract me. If you think you know how to say that, maybe you do, because your superpower is languages. But the rest of us probably get it wrong, because there's some funny stuff going on. And silent letter H is in this word, for example. I want to explain to you why learning more about the phonetic sounds of your first language can give you a head start to learn foreign languages when there is a big overlap in the phonetic sounds of each language. For example, there are 26 sounds in this language, and there are 33 sounds in the other language, and they share 19 common sounds. That's English and French have 19 common sounds. So if you want to learn French, there's only 7 new sounds to learn to make a total of 26 sounds in the entire language. Those sounds go on to make words, sentences, etc. And so I'm going to suggest to you that the sounds you focus on and learn to mimic perfectly are those sounds that are new to you in your new target language. Why bother? Well, once you've mastered the phonetic sounds of a language, you'll speak to others in that new target language without the burden of an overlay from your local dialect. You know, that's how you normally sound. But if you take on a new voice, like a French voice, you probably want to say your sounds with a French accent or a Canadian French accent, where many of you are. It's a huge confidence and communication boost when you can be easily understood by native language speakers. Also, starting with the phonetics of a language, it will tune your ears to listening to sounds, and that supercharges your word mastery while avoiding the confusion about the spelling rules and the silent letters. When a former failed learner recognises the common sounds in their first language and their new language, like we saw on the Venn chart, they can then identify what they should focus on. For example, in French, you might want to focus on these sounds. It's not that hard. Learning to pronounce them is a bit harder. And when you can mimic those phonetic sounds, the ones you haven't learned before because you didn't hear them growing up, you'll be able to learn things quicker instead of just not getting it for those of us that are failed language learners. And once you've got the sounds, you can make the words and the sentences and communicate effectively. Many of us, we grew up and we learnt to speak early, long before we learnt to write or read or do anything else. And we mastered how to say sounds and then words. And we learnt to mimic sounds with perfect pronunciation. People understood what we were saying when we shared a system of common sounds, especially after our teeth grew in, because they let us make extra sounds. Each spoken word is made up of small units of sound, and we call these units of sound phonemes. For example, when you sound out the English letter B, English speakers recognise that sound. You're also saying a phoneme that's in so many words. And as we know from childhood, the observations we make of children today also, we pick up language quickly, accurately learning to mimic new sounds until we can manage from that basis, from that foundation, to have all the words that contain a phoneme like by learning to mimic in our childhood, we got the building blocks that can transfer from your first language into many other languages where there are shared phonemes. A word to the wise, as Icelandic is not one of them. So, going to the chat where I'm hoping everyone's put their fabulous mother tongue language in. Oh, Tagalog, Purge, Yorkshire, Tamil, Arabic, English, Spanish, lots of English. Going down, down, down. And Kevin's teasing me in the chat, which is not what I'm trying to do during this speech. So you've shared your languages and you can have a look at them yourself. It's good to see some representation from the Philippines today. There's a bit of that happening near where I live and in my family. So back to what I'm saying. If you pronounce your English well, you've got those 44 English phonemes and you can take them to other target languages. And that makes your day and your life easier. Back to you, Toastmaster.